Hello and welcome. You're listening to Unreliable Sources, your bi-weekly briefing for mystery lovers, thriller junkies, and suspense addicts. I'm Mike Donohue, thriller author and crime fiction fan. Let's get into it. Since this is our first episode, let me give you the lay of the land. Every other week, Unreliable Sources drops into your feed with a fast, focused dispatch from the darker side of storytelling. I'll bring you updates from the world of mystery and thrillers, book releases, adaptation buzz, author picks, the occasional interview, and deep dive features on niche topics only true thriller nerds like us care about. And of course, recommendations and lists worth obsessing over or arguing about. Episodes are short, 10 to 15 minutes tops, just enough time for a coffee or a cover-up. Let's kick things off with this week's recent news items. The 2025 Dagger Awards were just announced. Those are the British Crime Writers Association honors, sort of the British counterparts to the Eggers on this side of the pond. Now, there were a lot of daggers on the website, so I'm just going to highlight a couple of the top ones. The Gold Dagger for Best Crime Novel went to Anna Mazzola's The Book of Secrets. Not one that I had read or, to be honest, really heard that much about. But the blurb says, think secrets, political intrigue, gender roles, power, and poison all set in 1659 Rome. So if historical mystery and thrillers are your bag, check out The Book of Secrets. Lou Berney's Dark Ride snagged the Steel Dagger for Best Espionage or Adventure Thriller. Berney's books are always sort of stealthy good, and he's an author I keep expecting to sort of explode and graduate out from the mid-list pack into the name brand bestsellers. Not sure it's quite happened yet. He had a lot of great press back around 2019 for November Road, and it looks like that trend is continuing with his win for Dark Ride. Finally, Twisted Dagger for Best Psychological or Suspense Thriller went to Tracy Sierra's Night Watching, a locked room nail-shredding suspense book about a mother stuck in an old house in a blizzard. I will say, I think I'd heard about this book when it was first published. The blurb sounded familiar, but rereading it hits a lot of the things that I like, and I think I'll be adding this to my TBR. In adaptation news, a new, quote, reimagined Thomas Crown affair is on the way, starring and directed by Michael B. Jordan, fresh off his big starring turn in Ryan Coogler's Sinners this summer. Looks like Lily Gladstone and Kenneth Branagh have also signed on. Now, if you're keeping track, this is the third version after Steve McQueen's 1968 original and the slick Pierce Brosnan Rene Russo remake in 1999. Will lightning strike again? We won't find out for a few years. This doesn't look like it's going to hit theaters until early 2027. So plenty of time to catch up on those first two if you haven't already seen them. According to the Libby app, the most checked out books of the summer so far include plenty of mystery and genre picks. In the top 10 you'll find Lisa Jewell's latest Twist Fest, Don't Let Him In. Jewell is an author I definitely enjoy. She sort of has a thing. Unreliable narrators, dueling timelines, family secrets, but man, she does it so well, I just get sucked in every time. No surprise that S.A. Cosby's King of Ashes is also on the list. This, I think, is next up on my audio TBR pile. Really always enjoy his books and look forward to this one as well. Getting great reviews so far. Riley Sager's retro thriller With a Vengeance, set on a 1940s train. Is it really summer without a new Riley Sager? Also on the list, there's an in-between Frida McFadden installment from the Housemaid series. And, of course, there's James Patterson. There's always a Patterson in these lists. Meanwhile, over on Book Talk, there's a new trend, annotating your fiction. Romance and fantasy readers, it looks like those are the two primary genres, are scribbling notes in the margins and color-coding tabs like it's finals week. Personally, I hope this doesn't catch on in the mystery or thriller genre. I don't really want to find a spoiler in the margins of my library book in Chapter 2. Let's keep mysteries sacred, people. And finally, a moment of respect. We lost two genre icons of my misspent youth recently. First, Mark Snow, composer of that unforgettable X-Files theme, also known as the Lonely Basement soundtrack to my teenage years. And Michael Madsen, whose razor-wielding Mr. Blonde in Tarantino's Reservoir Dogs still haunts my nightmares. R.I.P. to both of them. Now, a few new recent or upcoming releases to keep on your radar. The Frozen People by Ellie Griffiths, the start of a new series, and looks to continue with her trademarks of atmospheric, eerie English mysteries. I'm a big fan in recent years of the Ruth Galloway series and the more multicast one featuring Harbinder Kaur. If you haven't tried Ellie Griffith, I still feel like she's a little under the radar, at least in the mainstream. Check out the new book, The Frozen People. Mark Billingham returns with What the Night Brings, the 19th Tom Thorne novel. I can't believe he's up to 19. I feel like I need to go back and check in on Thorne. I always liked Billingham's sort of twisty, complicated plotting, but for some reason I just dropped off after the first 7 or 8. Maybe Billingham took a pause for a standalone that didn't quite click with audiences, and I just never went back and picked it up when he returned to Thorne. Ruth Ware releases her first ever sequel, The Woman in Suite 11. That's the follow-up to 2016's The Woman in Cabin 10, which will also get the Netflix treatment this fall, starring Keira Knightley, Guy Pearce, and Hannah Waddingham. And if you like your crime small-town weird, Welcome to Cottonmouth, at least the blurb caught my attention, by Jay Bell. That hit shelves on July 8th and looks like it could be a great indie sleeper to pack in the beach bag. I will include links to all the books I talked about in the show notes. Moving on to this week's feature, we are looking at essential mysteries. Every mystery lover remembers the book that hooked them, so fitting for our first episode, I thought I'd give you 3 gateway mysteries that I always or typically recommend. One classic, one modern, and one a little off the beaten path. First, the classic. Probably not a big surprise, can you guess it? The Murder of Roger Ackroyd by Agatha Christie. The twist that launched 1,000 think pieces, still shocking, still brilliant after almost 100 years. It's just hard to beat the queen, right? If you need a backup, I'm going to cheat. I said I'd give you 3, but I'm going to give you a backup for each, just in case the person you're recommending it to tells you they've already read it. The backup, The Big Sleep by Raymond Chandler. The blueprint for hard-boiled detective fiction. Philip Marlowe walked so every other cynical PI could run. Moving on to some modern picks. First up is Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. You know the name, you know the title. What you may have forgotten is just how expertly Flynn plays the reader. And yes, the Fincher movie was great, but the book is even nastier. The backup here, I'm going to go with The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, the original book in the trilogy. I think it was a global bestseller for good reason. It's thick and dense, and yes, the first page starts with a long description, intricate description of a flower, but if you get off the first page, it pays off handsomely with complex characters, twisted family secrets, and a cold case that you really just can't look away from. All right, moving on to maybe what I'll call indie picks, maybe lesser known picks, at least for those outside of genre freaks like us. I'm going to go with Bluebird by Attica Locke. A gripping, slow burn Texas noir with some real emotional depth. Just beautifully written, a page turner. I'd question your friendship if whoever you're giving this to doesn't enjoy it. Couple more picks. I was going to go with Blacktop Wasteland here by S.A. Cosby, but it's super hard now to consider him underrated or indie or not that well known. He landed on Obama's summer reading picks a few years ago, and he just keeps pumping out these great sort of commercial genre thrillers. So if you have like maybe a guy in your life that likes a little machismo with his books or is looking for that sort of muscular book, give him any of the S.A. Cosby's. Blacktop Wasteland was his debut. But if you're looking for alternative, maybe IQ by Joe Ide. It's sort of a modern Sherlock Holmes set in South Central LA. IQ, also known as Isaiah Quintabi, is a genius with street smarts and deductive firepower, snappy, stylish, utterly unique. I really liked his debut here. On a personal note, right now I'm reading Kill Your Darlings by Peter Swanson, a psychological thriller that tells the story of a marriage in reverse, sort of Memento style, to reveal why a wife is now calmly planning to murder her husband after decades of marriage. Let me just amend my former statement from earlier in the episode. It wouldn't be summer in my house without a new Sager or a new Peter Swanson. They both fit their traditional model of a summer vacation read to a T, and I say that with the highest of compliments. On audio, I'm listening to The Ascent by Adam Plantinga, narrated by Charles Halford and Christine Lakin. It's part Prison Break, part redemption arc, part ticking clock, part completely bonkers action. Great performances, tightly written. Highly recommend this, whether you're reading it or listening to it. And I just wrapped Department Q on Netflix. And I think I like this better than the Adler Olsen book it was based on. If you like your detectives dark, brooding, and emotionally unavailable, maybe slightly unlikable, this Danish series now transported to Scotland for the adaptation will be your jam. Complicated characters, layered mysteries, and a big payoff. All right, that's it for episode 1. Let me leave you with a question. What was the first mystery book that really hooked you? Was it Holmes, Poirot, Nancy Drew, something grittier, pulpier, stranger? Shoot me your picks. I'd love to feature some listener favorites in a future episode. As I mentioned, you can find all the books we discussed in the show notes. You can also email me at Mike Donohue at MikeDonohueBooks.com. That's DONOHUE. Or find me on Blue Sky at Mike D Mystery or Instagram at Mike Donohue Books. This has been Unreliable Sources. I'm Mike Donohue. Thanks for listening. Until next time, stay sharp, follow the clues, and never trust anyone who skips to the end.